Hey, hello everyone. This week, I'm going to talk with the guy who gave me this hat, all the way from Los Angeles. That's right. Oops, I showed you very quickly who it was. That's right. This week I'm talking with Carlo Cruz. Carlo, he is a stylish fella. If you didn't see that picture just then with him wearing a cool hat, you certainly will realise that very shortly. Photographer Carlo Cruz is a Californian-based photographer out of Los Angeles. He first picked up a camera when he was studying architecture in his homeland of the Philippines. He wanted to provide a sense of scale to his architecture imagery, and he started to incorporate people, primarily as I say, to provide a sense of scale. But he fell eventually on the idea of using dancers because their shapes, the shapes that they were creating, really complemented the buildings that he was shooting. In 2009, he photographed Red Bull BC1, which is a global breakdance competition, and he is passionate, completely about dance and street culture, photographing it all over the world. But not only that, he is also an active architect. He shoots for a number of clients, including Fitbit, Adidas, ESPN, Red Bull, and he lives in Los Angeles. And that's where he's coming to us from live today. Please join me in welcoming Carlo to your screens. There he is, looking over there.
Oh, all right. Perfect. Hey, everyone.
Carlo, how are you?
I am good. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Well, actually, it's good afternoon here, but, good morning to you. Well, I managed to get you out of bed before 7 o'clock.
Yes, I have to set 3 alarms just to make sure that I don't mess this up. So,
That's great. Well, I'm glad you did. And you've obviously thought about your background in better than I have. I'm still working on that, bit by bit.
I am holed up in the garage right now, just so I don't wake up the kids. So, but my dog Sam is running around the area. So, excuse me.
It looks like the proper artist's studio, of which you're an amalgamation of many, an architect and a photographer. So good job. Are you well?
Nice.
Are you well?
Sorry?
Are you well?
Yes, doing great. I mean, with all these being locked up in the house, it's great. I get to be more creative with backdrops and stuff like that. So far so good. How about you?
Yes, keeping healthy. Looking forward to sort of life returning to some vague normality. It started to do so here in the UK. Schools are still shut, so we still have that to cope with. But the sun is shining. The summer holidays are kind of around the corner. And to be honest, I'm waiting for the hairdressers to open because it would be nice to have some of this madness chopped. But you're looking pretty stylish with yours, to be fair.
I don't know about that. So, but,
before we kick off looking at your pics, I thought it'd be interesting to just touch on the first paid job as a photographer that you mentioned to me when we were chatting. Because it's a bit extraordinary in a way. You cited that you were hired to shoot generators in a factory. What
yes.
was this? What was this for?
Well, I think this was back in 2000 and maybe 2003, 2004. So it's my first paid official gig was to shoot for generators in a factory here in LA. So I went to the warehouse. I think I was about maybe 15 minutes early. So while I was waiting, I'm already set up. So I had a chance to shoot the assembly line, people around there working at the generators, with the weldings or setting up boxes and stuff like that. So while I was waiting, I started shooting them, shoot behind the scenes. Long story short, the owner loved my photos of the people, of them working, the assembly line. but he hated all my generator photos. It's just so bad, as it should be. So that's when I realized that no, generator photography is not really for me. And that's my first paid gig.
That's
So
good.
I don't
Well,
know if it turned out good or it turned out bad, but
yeah. I mean, obviously, you learn from that photographing people is possibly the better idea.
yeah, not
Um,
generators.
but you cite, obviously, I mentioned it in the intro. You cited putting dancers into your architecture. Um, was that a kind of a catalyst for your interest of photographing people? Um,
Uh, yes, I mean, I started off generally as a street photographer, but with my architectural degree, I think my B-boy series is the one that really I think that's where I found my niche as a photographer,
yeah, yeah,
just because I get to combine both of the things that I love, which is architecture and street. Mainly street, just because the way I approach the B-boy series when I first started was just shooting architecture and then trying to have like like what you said during the intro, fabulous intro by the way, is like, man, this is a great building. I wish we have like somebody in there to just just to have a scale,
yeah.
and then instead of just having like one person just standing up there, like what better way of combining all those dynamic architecture with dynamic movement? So
Yeah, I mean, I guess the classic way that architects use people in their imagery is sort of ghosting. So
yeah,
the classic, you get the person to sort of motion slightly forward, slightly
right,
backwards to give that sense of scale and sense of movement and sense of activity. So you've taken it in a very different to a
yes,
very different place actually. And when I think about that and the way that normal architects shoot people, it's pretty interesting to see what you've shot. So, right, I mean, you've referenced your b-boy shoot, which was your first kind of major piece of work that you actioned this idea. So it's only pertinent that I put one of those pictures up on the screen. The first one is black. Well, they're two black and white ones. One's in Detroit, one's in LA. We're going to do Detroit next.
okay.
Where is this one in LA? AT&T in the background.
Yes, this was at a Disney concert hall.
Ah,
And I don't know, man. It's really I don't I'm really bad with dates, but that should be like maybe 2004, maybe 2005.
okay.
We shot that like super late, maybe 1 a.m., And I I love that photo. First, it's black and white, and it's just that spotlight of the b-boy. His name is Germs. It's still one of my favorite photo. Um, and what's nice about that is you won't have that photo anymore. You won't be able to get that same photo anymore just because when you go to downtown LA at the Disney Concert Hall, I think that area over there has been enclosed with those umbrellas and seating. So,
Uh,
but anyway, yeah, that is definitely one of my favorite photos from the series.
I mean, it's super beautiful, and I love obviously the way you use the natural spotlight to capture the
Yeah.
move. Is there a reason why you went there super late? Do you find that was when traffic is best, or was this sort of late in a sort of a late night shoot, or was there a particular reason why you were there at that time?
Well, first it's just because I was young and I don't have any kids. I think that's what it is. It works
Fair
best.
enough.
And then obviously, if you shoot late, you don't have to deal with a lot of people, and hopefully, you don't get to worry about, the security just going outside and asking me for licenses.
Yeah.
Just makes a lot of sense for me.
Yes. Classic.
Yeah,
Good excuse.
just
Yeah.
go there.
Avoiding security, I think, is possibly the winning answer to that one.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously outside Disney Concert Hall, downtown LA.
It's hard, especially if you shoot in LA. I mean, the minute you're walking, and then the minute you bring out your tripod and put that in the sidewalk, they would just come in, and then you know, they have 24 hours surveillance there. So, in this concert hall at least.
Yeah, it's killer. I mean, killer shot. I love it. I love it. Very, very, very strong and dynamic. And as you rightly say, the flow of the building is
Yeah,
complemented by the flow and the move of the
yeah,
artist.
and it's just the idea of him in the middle of the street is something that it's something that you don't see every day.
Yeah, yeah, very true. Well, I mean, look, talking about middle of the street, the Detroit shot that I've chosen, which is outside General Motors, is part of the same series. Now this is before I check it up. I mean, this guy's super in the middle of the street. But for the series, you shared with me a number of images. I selected two, and they were kind of all around the US. How long did it take you to shoot the series?
Um, how long or
Yeah,
sorry?
how sort of time wise, over what
Oh,
period of time did you shoot them?
well, I I took my time with that one. It's still an ongoing series,
Nice.
until now. Obviously, when there's traveling involved around LA, I try to schedule it that when I first started, everything is out of pocket. I have to pay for trips
Mm,
and
mm.
or somebody. But when I think Detroit was, I think I had a shoot for Red Bull then, and then since I'm there anyway, I started contacting one of my b-boy friends or somebody I know that if he knows somebody from Detroit, then I met up with the crew. There's three of them with that one, a bunch of them, and we went to. So I was asking them like, well, I just need like a good places of recommendation, and then this one just popped out. Oh, how about here? Oh yeah, let's go, and just went there. I think that was like in the middle of the day, on a Thursday, probably like a weekday. We went there, not a lot of people. Started shooting.
This is so great. I mean, I love the divide of the image straight across the middle. I've put it up on screen for people to see
Oh,
now. The divide in the middle of the very metallic
yeah.
and sort of the crazy architecture above it, and then yet the street scene below and
It is
the
great. I was
skies.
looking at just the photos. It's very brute. Like the architecture is just brute. A lot of lines, and you see there that just the sign, and it's great. Like visually, I really like it.
It to me really conjures up exact. I've never been to Detroit. I'm a big fan of Detroit from a dance
Yeah,
music perspective, and I've read a lot about it. I know a few photographers there. Um, uh, uh, but this sort of really sort of conjures up exactly the image that I had of Detroit. That sort of really
yeah,
almost industrial architecture,
yeah.
and obviously General Motors, is kind of omnipotent really with Detroit. Um,
Yes.
so I guess that's where it's super fitting. Um, why did
You're good.
you choose to do it on the walkway? Like, did you put him over there? Do you feel safety
Uh,
first, or were you kind of considering doing it in the middle of the road and being even more crazy?
well, yes and no. I mean, of course, like the walkway is more safe, but it's sort of how the eye leads you. There's like this white strip at the base
Yeah,
that you see it. So you have all those lines, all vertical lines, and then you have this white strip diagonal line that just leads you into subject. So it just makes sense for me. Like you see it, and then your eye just leads to that guy.
yeah, yeah.
So you have architecture. So it just cohesive image in there.
Do you ever ask any of your subjects to bring particular clothing with them?
No, no. Otherwise it won't be as natural. They just go there, and then how like whatever they want to feel like wearing, and then we'll work with this. It's not really a big production. You email them, you coordinate, all right, and then you text them, I'll be here, and we'll go and we'll start shooting. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Okay.
sometimes
The
works. It does.
the reason I ask actually because looking through some of your pictures, quite a few of the dancers have got white shoes, and they tend to really pop. Because you're, they like to wear sort of baggy black pants a lot, at
Yeah.
least the ones that I've known and the ones I've seen. And so,
Yeah.
white shoes seem to sort of pop, and that's evident from some of your shots. Hence why I just wanted to pose the question.
Yeah, no, that is a great observation. I kind of noticed that too, but mostly I think it's coincidence. So, but um, I do know just wearing white shoes, if you're dancing, it just shows more movement. If you have fast feet,
Yeah.
it shows better in the background. People tend to see it. It's faster than having like a neutral colored shoe. But if you're looking at a dancer, you see them wearing something that's really bright, especially if you're doing some good footwork with dancing.
Mm.
You tend to accentuate, like see it with a lighter colored shoe. Maybe that is the thinking.
Yeah. Also, if you transfer into black and white, some of those shots, you kind of it works.
Ooh, sorry about that. I think it's my song sound.
It's all right, no problem. All right, well, it's cool. I mean, the black and white shots are, very, very, very strong, and I really like your B-Boy series. You said that was what got you some good gigs. That shows the value of doing personal projects in a big way.
Yes.
And that's kind of what comes of it. And nice, it sort of leads on nicely to a shot that I'm going to put up now, which is actually what I commissioned you for ages ago. I love this shot, and I note that you've kind of got pictures of these from this series all over the place.
Yes.
So this was where you decided to take break dancing underwater,
Yeah.
highly controversial. Although this shot is not quite underwater. The rest of the series are
No.
underwater, but the one I'm putting up now is it's sort of hovering on the top of the water.
Yes.
So tell us why did you kind of decide to go down that avenue? I mean, obviously breaking is your thing, right?
Yes.
We've discussed that. We'll
Well,
cross it more.
I remembered when you emailed me, and also Bella. This is your fault, by the way. I just wanna tell that to everyone.
Great, good.
Well, Red Bull Red Bull Photography specifically asked me if I have any ideas of a project, and then they would be happy to hear about it and possibly fund it. So I think I gave maybe three options of a project. One would be traveling all over um, SoCal shooting B-boys, and then the other one maybe traveling abroad shooting B-boys. I think both of them logistically and getting licenses would be a little hard, especially if it's leaning towards commercial photography.
Yeah.
I imagine. And then this is sort of my, well, I don't know. Here we go. Maybe shooting underwater and stuff like that. But then, to my surprise, I think you came back and then, sure, let's do that. And you want to hear more about it. But the problem with that one is I never had any underwater photography experience, and this shoot really kicked my ass. It's really hard. But after the whole shoot, I have like so much respect for people that shoots underwater, like tenfolds. This thing is hard. Shooting underwater is hard,
Yeah.
and especially shooting in LA. You have to deal with a lot of licenses, and you have to have EMTs. You have to have a lifeguard. And then you need to have a professional master diver in there. And according to them, you could possibly die of if you do the wrong breathing exercises, because the dancers have those oxygen for them so that they can stay underwater for a long time. But yeah, well, anyway, specifically for this shot of Kid David, this is a painted sky background on the pool, and then I think we use a step ladder all the way under the pool, and then we just had them, do their thing. I remember the first shot of them, he was all dry, and then we were telling them we just got to be sure that we get a good photo of the first shot. Otherwise, the second and the third one will be all him just being wet. So, but this was the first shot during that day. So it sort of started the whole, all right, so this might work out because it turned out really good. We're so happy with the first photos. So it carried the whole thing with us that, all right, at least whatever happens, if this whole underwater shoot sucks, we still have that good photo
Yeah.
to carry us with it. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we probably managed the photos that we really wanted, those underwater photos. But it is hard shooting underwater, but I don't mind doing it again. But it was great. It was great. It's a great learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I wish I could show the rest of it, or I'd like to show the rest of it. But if you're watching, you should head to Red Bull Content Ball. I think the images are on Breaking Water, Carlo Cruz. I could probably put a link. I'll put a link in the video description after this, because the little video that was made about how this happened was great. I have the music bouncing around in my head even now. It's had a lot of impact on me, actually. I think it was a kind of let's trust Carlo and see what he comes back with. And you came back with this, like, wow, amazing set of shots. So I love the fact that you've chosen this. It's so artistic and so painterly. With the background, you kind of, what on earth is going on? It's great, really.
Well, what was going on your mind when you approved that proposal anyway?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Shooting under.
It was years ago. Being adventurous. That was, yeah. I think it's different. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, like your architecture series, your b-boy series of putting b-boys in front of architecture. I mean, traditionally, that's not where you see them. You see them in more sort of guerrilla, graffiti, urban, underground environments. Dance-offs, nightclubs, who knows what, but not in front of Frank Gehry buildings, not in swimming pools. So I think that's
yeah, it's definitely fun. I mean, something that it's in that image and the rest of the series is something that it's like one of the photos and the experience that I really love as a photographer. And it's great. And yeah, thanks for giving me that opportunity.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
It was worth it, wasn't it? We're still talking, so obviously something worked out. Well, look, moving from that onto slightly different picture. This one was a bit later in your career. It was BC1 2015, and he is in the red and the grey suit, pulling off what looks like a pretty tricky move. Explain this. Where is this? Is this in a back of a theatre or something?
Yes. I think that was in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, during the North American finals of Red Bull BC1. So we were there with the finalists for the event. I think this is B-Boy Keebs. So we were there maybe a few hours early before the main event. So we had the chance to so I asked Keebs, let's start if you have time to shoot. This was taken backstage, and then I have that. I think I only have one light on his left. And it's the same thing, like me just being drawn to the lines.
Yeah.
Just to have that. And then you have a b-boy that just breaks the scale of the whole thing. And then you have all of those shelves in your foreground just to explain, just to have a story that it is backstage. And I would get questions asked like, what is your thinking behind, why you're placing b-boys and you're choosing locations? And I think for me is it's just patterns. Patterns really draws my attention, and then breaking patterns with your subject makes it especially nicer.
Mm.
It makes the whole thing a more interesting photo. I mean, I would imagine that somebody would take a photo of most of my shots without the dancers, and somewhat would pass up as a good image, but adding another set of layer to that photo makes the whole thing better. So, and it's, and yes, this photo of Keeves with this is still it. I do love that photo. I have, like, in the series of B-Boy series, I would say I would have maybe 3,000 images, and this is still one of my favorite photos as well. So yeah, really good. I love that photo until now. Still looks at it and says, "Wow, this is a good photo." I don't know, can't believe I shot this one. So,
What was it planned? Because obviously you look in the background, and there's all these red. There must be handles on pipes or something like that. It's red and grey. I mean, obviously you've got the predominance of colour in there, red and grey, and it
yeah.
fits just beautifully.
No wardrobe. No, nothing is planned really. I mean, the only thing that is planned is that I this is where the background, and this is where you're gonna be standing,
Yeah,
and show me what you think you can do. What do you think? It's more of a collaboration than what it is. I take a photo of the background. I tell them this is where I think they should be, and then they would tell me, I think this would look great with this one, and then during the process, then maybe we can say, oh, okay, do you have a windbreaker with you? Maybe he was wearing black, or the subject would be wearing black or white, and then would say, you know what, maybe if you have, like what you said, maybe a red windbreaker, not for this one specifically, but in some of the instances that we can say, maybe you should change your shirt. Do you have a different shirt? Stuff like that, so that the image would pop out better. But with this whole thing, nothing is really planned. It's more of a collaboration as we go, and just achieving that image that both of us will be happy with.
yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, it shows. I mean, you reference breaking patterns, which, funnily enough, I mean, I'll chuck the Detroit one up again. I mean, essentially, that's exactly what you've done, but that is pretty crazy name for what could be a good series going forward.
See, there you go. I will
Obviously,
contact you after this.
you're playing, yeah, yeah, you're playing with words, playing with patterns, playing with breaking. So, yeah, you can see the trend in your shots there, and maybe there's something else to sort of expand on
Breaking
using
pattern.
using that knowledge of architecture and all the contacts you've got across breaking. But it's not always about breaking, is it? I mean, the last shot we're going to show is, but the one that I'd like to chuck up on screen now is one that you said actually is a bit different to what you just explained. This was to do. It was a shot you did on set of a production.
Yes.
Different type of dancer here, ballet dancer, and
Yes.
this is not where you were in control. Am I right?
No, no, definitely not in control. I was a fly on the wall for that one. Really quiet. Um, but what's nice about that photo is, um, although I'm just an on-set photographer, those frames really is different from what they're shooting. Most of the time, they would be like, in a different angle, just so that I won't be in the way of everyone. So I would be like on a different angle, maybe behind the crew, or maybe on the side of them. Or maybe this one maybe was shot at one of those cuts that is on the B-roll, stuff like that. Uh, I don't know, but yeah, like, I think I like this just because, like what you said, you don't really have control over of your photo. Sometimes you don't have control over the surroundings. You don't have control over your subject, and you try to do a good job and get the best image you could possibly get given circumstances.
Mm.
So yeah, this photo is one of those samples. So yeah, I'm happy to get a photo like that,
Yeah.
even though I don't have control over it.
I mean, working on set with film crews is always extremely difficult as a photographer. I mean, it's something that always a lot of people say. Plenty of people make a good career out of on-set photography, but it's hard because you're never the focus. You know, you've always got to slip the shots in where you can. There's the occasion I'm aware that you're given a couple of minutes freedom to jump in, shoot, control, and then jump out.
Yeah,
So to achieve a shot like
yeah.
this, which is super graceful, really beautiful,
Thanks. Well, I
you
think
position yourself well, and actually you take it out of context of what we've just talked about. This is just a standalone, amazing sort of
yes,
fine art
yes.
photograph.
No. Well, I think I would also, just because I started shooting with street photography, and street photography is one of those that situations that you don't really have control over, and you just wait and see, and then maybe be patient or you be aggressive. But either way, you don't really have any control of what's happening. So I think it's like my experience with shooting street really helped me with getting those photos as well.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, really. I mean, you have to choose your moments very carefully, and obviously you've done that there. I mean, that's in stark contrast to what we just talked about, and kind of you directing the entire shoot and collaboratively working. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so the last shot I'd like to put up on screen is you cited this as being the last shoot that you did before lockdown,
Professionally.
which
Yes.
professionally, yeah. And
Yes.
this is
That
cool. I mean, I love this shot. This is what you almost expect when you think of it, kind of breakdance to be, right? It's on the street. It's got some
with
graffiti
graffiti.
hanging out. You're downtown. This is in Detroit as well, so you're like, you're hammering everything here, really, aren't you? You've got you've got all the elements of a great photograph, and the Nike swoosh on the guy's shoes, which shows through and kind of gels with the orange of the record that the graffiti's breaking up, and the orange of the lights on the trucks and the cars.
It's funny how you explain those things. I find it really refreshing just because when I look at it, I see it like, oh, this is a photo that works for me. But then when you break it down, it does make sense. So thank you for that. But I mean, when I'm shooting, I don't really think about all of those stuff. Maybe I just got lucky.
Maybe you got lucky. I mean, why did you choose that spot? Just why did you not go? Why did you not go more left and show more of the graffiti? Like, where was your head at? I mean, I love it. It's really cool. It works perfectly well. But what was your thinking?
No, no, it's great. That's why I think it's great having this talk, having another photographer with when somebody looks at your image because they see things, even if it's the same image, they see things differently, how they interpret images. And it's great. I mean, how you explain the whole thing and then, oh yeah, it does kind of make sense. Thank you for noticing that. But yeah, I mean, this was my last shoot. I think that was back in January. It's a workshop for Detroit. This is B-Boy Rocks, right? And it wasn't even snowing then. Like on the first day of the workshop, the whole thing was dry. And then I think midday, the second day, started snowing. And it snowed crazy, like blizzard snow. And this was just when the snow was starting. So it was fun because we were so glad because it's fresh snow. I think we have other cuts that there was actual snow, like just flowing, but being a blizzard, it's just fast. So it's really hard to get that in camera. But yeah, and then after that, I was commissioned to do other shoots, but with this whole COVID thing, so everything got canceled. But I'm happy to cap off a last professional photo with that.
Yeah,
So it's a great thing.
as would anyone be. I like the fact that it says this the soundtrack to my life at the bottom. That's almost it's almost
Yeah.
really quite appropriate to you as a person. I mean, Really? Well, after what we've discussed and all the breakdance photography that you
No, no.
do, that is the soundtrack to your life. This should be your signature image, really, shouldn't it?
Really? Well, thanks for pointing that out. But this is great insight. I like talking to you.
That's what it's about, really, isn't it? I mean,
That's a,
interestingly, we touched on it being the soundtrack to your life, but I mentioned at the beginning, and we've discussed it with a couple of your images. I mean, you are a practicing architect, so in to that degree, I mean, I know that you design schools, which will probably be a very fortuitous
not
thing to
exciting.
do going forward now, bearing in mind the way that classrooms are meant to be and so on. But that would obviously that would sort of be your two areas, right? You've got your breaking, soundtrack to your life, and your architecture. Um, and you've obviously cited street photography as where you sort of start as well. Now, when I talked to you and asked you for a couple of influences, you put two. Well, you put four or five to me, but two that really stood out. Um, and they reference two elements of that. First is a book that I've never heard of, probably should have done, called Modernism Rediscovered by Julius Shulman. Now, if you're online and you're watching, go and look it up. This is a super cool book that's all about sort of 60s, 70s architecture in Los Angeles, and
Yes.
marks an amazing period in time. But
Yes.
what is it about that sort of why is that such an influence to you?
Um, I mean, just visually. Well, first, Julius Shulman is the main architectural photographer, but like going back to the book first, you see that, and it's just amazing how he plays with how he approaches shooting architecture and shadows and stuff like that. And then Julius Shulman, when I had a chance before he died, unfortunately, I had a chance to meet him in one of his talks, and this guy he would explain how he would approach our architecture photography. He would just be there sometimes in days and months. And him being a Boy Scout, he would suggest like this guy would come back on a different time of the year during the solstice when the sun, according to him, falls differently so that the shadow is different.
Yeah.
With during at this time at this season, so he would come back to that building just to photograph it. I mean, talk about dedication and getting the photo that you want. And I just admire him and respect his work and how he approaches all of those, and just to get the image that he really wanted and how he plays with the shadows. So it's great. I mean, everybody who's fan of architecture or thinking of how to shoot proper architectural photography, like this guy is the man right there, Julius.
That book needs to be on your shelf, basically.
Yes, go get him right now. Grab him.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put the link. I'll put the link in the bio or in the video description. But that's cool. That you got to meet him. That's pretty nice. Do you find
Yeah.
that you reference any images of his when you're out shooting at all? Do you have anything kind of particularly in mind?
No, it's more of just getting inspired. Look at his photos, and obviously all those details would just when the time comes for me, hopefully I can utilize some of them. Um, more, it's mostly, well, most of the shots are from LA, and nothing per se that the image pops out, but it's just the whole approach of
Yeah.
photography.
Checking
know.
light.
But
Re-
yeah, it's just I just look at it, glance over it, and try to digest everything that I see. So
and take it.
getting inspired by his photos.
So the other person that you suggest you cite is the amazing Vivian Meyer. Now,
Yes.
you actually gave me a book on Vivian Maier, I believe, um,
Yes.
a few years back, and I'd heard of her. I watched the film Finding Vivian
Document.
Maier. If you
Yes.
haven't seen it, if you're watching, if you haven't seen it or you haven't heard of Vivian Maier, my God, go and check it out. It's an astounding story. I mean, this woman, wow, what a street photographer.
Yes. Yes. Especially with the time right now of social media. I mean, this person just stuck to her craft without the whole being famous thing. She just went there, started shooting, but she knows she's good. That's what I love about her. But she doesn't care about, showing it to anyone. She just loves shooting, and she knows that, she's really good at it. And then her story is so much is very interesting, and her photos, oh my God, is so amazing. It's something that everybody should just watch and get a book.
Yeah, I agree.
Very
It
inspiring.
it's quite stunning to think that someone of that sort of caliber, uh, she
It's
was a
American.
nanny. She was a
Yeah.
nanny. She didn't show any pictures to anybody,
Uh-huh.
and they were just slowly discovered by this guy at sort of antique sales and in people's
Yeah.
attics, and
Yeah.
astounding.
It's
Do you
great.
take anything from her? Like, kind of do you have an influence from her? Sort of just any particular thing that really sticks out? I mean, you mentioned she didn't care for showing them to anybody. She just shot. She knew she was good.
Yes.
Do you take that?
Um.
Do you take that approach when you go out?
Um.
You know you're good.
Well, I think it's just being patient. I think she's a very patient photographer. I see her just waiting for that decisive moment. Like it's first you tend. I mean, and most street photographers are like that. It's either you're incredibly lucky or you're incredibly patient. Because you cannot be, or you have to be fast in taking that, like what frame to use, especially during that time when everybody's just using film. But I think I just admire the idea that she just keep shooting anywhere. You have, and with the what is that hip TLR T through
Twin lens
TTL
reflex.
through, yeah, the reflex photography. I think that one helped with photography just because for her, just because she's shooting down instead of your camera in front of your face, so it people are not as maybe conscious of you when you're shooting that way.
Does
So
that? Do you have a camera of that
yes, I
style?
do, I
So
do. Yeah,
do you use it much?
I used to shoot a lot of 120s. Yes, before. I still have my film. I started as a film photographer,
Yeah.
so I still like to count my shots. Like I don't go and start burst mode all the time. During shoots, um, like my other photographers would just notice that during after every shoot, like we would talk like, so how many frames did you shoot today? Like one other photographer would have like 1,500, and then the other one would have like 3,000, and they would ask me, and I would have like 250. Just because I think just having to shoot street and film, I think it just teaches you to be patient and just wait for that moment instead of just burst mode. But I
Yeah.
do realize it is digital age right now, so I should start shooting more and don't worry about my compact flash burning out.
I'm not necessarily sure you should. I mean, you touched on the decisive moment being a street photographer, and I mean, who if you come back from a shoot and you've got 250 pictures on your camera versus 2,500, then surely, I mean, maybe that person with 2,500 might have a number of shots more than you, but really you're in a winning situation because it can take you far less time. You already know which ones you like anyway because you took your time, you were patient shooting them. So I think there's a lot of value in that, and it's very easy to adopt this sort of trigger happy approach and come out of a shoot with thousands of pictures. But if you're getting the type of shots that we've seen and looked at from adopting that manner of shooting, then why would you change it? If anything, that's what people should learn. Hard drive space is cheap now, but that's time is not. And at the end of the day, that's what you need to go through 2,500 shots.
Well, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's mostly habit, but yeah, I do get that there's a sense there's value in that one. It's just being, yeah, I suppose you're right. And I'll just, yeah, yes, you're right.
Stick with it. Stick with it. Trust yourself.
Yes,
You've clearly done a good job so far. Um,
thank.
don't change for that reason. You know.
Okay, I won't change for you.
No, don't. So listen, are there any particular shoots that stand out in your mind? Kind of your the most. Let's say your most. Well, we touched on difficult actually with the breaking water. That was clearly sort of most challenging. What to your memory has been your most sort of interesting or exciting shoot that you've had?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I think when you first asked me that, um, well, I don't know if this answers your question, but I think one of your questions when we first started is if I have like a particular photo, like I would consider one of my most favorite photo.
Yeah.
Um, and and you kind of stomped me there. I was like thinking like, what is my Mona Lisa, and I don't think I have any. It's more of I think I'm I'm a series guy. I like shooting in series. I've done series with B-boys. Obviously, I've done series with Ghost Town
Yeah.
photos. I've done series with faces on the streets, and I think I don't really have like a particular photo that I would say consider favorite, but the idea of shooting series for me is something that I like it just because it inspires me to shoot more. It pushes me to like what you're doing right now with your white backdrop series, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen his Charlie Pinder's photo series of white backdrop during the quarantine, you guys should check it out at his Instagram. But anyway,
Thanks.
those yes, I mean those series are things that inspire you to get images, right? To inspire you to get out of bed and then
Yeah.
take photos, and for me, I think it's really about that, just getting inspired with photography and just convincing or pushing yourself to shoot more and getting great images all the time. Um, yeah, and that's it.
Do you have you ever thought about have you ever thought about making a book from any of your series?
Oh yes, for the longest time when I first started it my B-boy series, I that was the original plan to make a book.
Mm.
But then over time you realize that your shooting style or shooting preferences change. And then I like the idea of it is evolving. I look at my other photos
Yeah.
when I first started and then like, oh man, this is like way too much HDR. And then I would think about going back at it and re-rendering stuff, and and I stopped because I feel like this is a timestamp for me. This is my preference back when I was this age, back with this style, and I like the progression. I don't know if I'm progressing to be a better photographer, but my style is definitely different and
Yeah.
evolving. So going back to your answer, it's I mean to your question is I still think of eventually I'm gonna be trying to make the book, but I'm just waiting and trying to see where it leads me. But hopefully in the future.
But how many pictures sticking on that then? How many pictures do you think you've actually got from your B-boy series in total?
5,000 photos.
Oh,
I got so
and
many.
you're still thinking about when you sort of draw a line. I mean, you don't
It's a,
just to make a book. It doesn't mean that you have to stop the project. You know, you can still shoot those. Maybe that's something you should think about.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
otherwise, in 2 years' time, when I talk to you again, you'll be like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'd like to do it, but I still want to get that one shot." But
Yes,
2024, that will be 20 years of b-boy. Maybe that's
I
maybe
know.
that's it.
I know. Well, yeah, and I remember back when I was starting, there were a lot of b-boy photographers, and that's how they got me at Red Bull. It's like when they type b-boy photography back in 2009, my name would just pop out at Google. They would Google b-boy photography, Carlo Cruz, and I don't know, I have done that whole search thing, but I can imagine like having more than one search result of a b-boy photographer. But back then, it was just it's just me and maybe I think it's just me that's just constantly in there, that's just shoots specifically b-boy back then.
Yeah.
But I do love the idea of there's a lot more b-boy photography right now. It first they everyone gets like b-boys deserve that recognition, and then second it's just we need more great b-boy photographers in the scene. So yeah,
Well, maybe if
it's
you
great.
make that book, that'll be an inspiration for people. I think. I think we
Yeah.
talk offline, and I'll start to work with you on it to get it published.
Yeah,
Because look, if
yeah.
you've got 5,000 pictures like these ones here, then it's absolutely worth putting it out there. Those and all those. Think about your audience. All those b-boys are going to buy it for a start. You know,
Oh,
be
I hope
amazing.
so. I hope so. I will definitely look into it. Thank you for pointing that out.
There you go. You see, you've got to think honestly. So I mean, look, maybe that's a project. We've talked about breaking patterns you can get stuck into, and we've talked about making this book. But I mean, from a sort of the where we are right now, what other projects do you have? Any particular projects that you've got going on?
No, right now, my last shoot, I don't know if it was during the whole BLM protest. That was my last shoot. I don't know if you want to go political with this one, but I guess like since we're living in this time zone right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
especially being in LA. My last shoot. I don't know if I sent you that but
Yeah, I think I've got a couple. Let me chuck one
yeah,
up actually. Give me a second to find it. Explain to us how much time you sort of spent on shooting that because I don't want to go too
yeah,
political,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's worth touching on because your shots are really strong. I mean, have you done anything? Um, have you put them out to sort of news or is it more just a personal project?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's not even a project. I went there. It's just to hear the news. I mean, just to hear them, just to be with them first, and also to support. Um, but I mean, it is very sensitive right now with that situation. But just sticking with photography, just being there, um, just to shoot, because we might be witnessing history right now. We'll see, but
Mm-hmm.
I like what's happening just because it forces conversation, and for us, like with me and my kids and my wife, the whole family,
Yeah.
we have those dinner time conversations about what's happening, and we explain it to them, and I think if anything, it's that is for me, that is what it does is we have that conversation and we explain it to them, and hopefully, I don't know how things will change right now, but hopefully in the future, with us doing our part with our kids, it'll get better.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd like to hope and that it will, and agree with you entirely. I mean, I'm putting up the shot. I unfortunately hadn't prepped it in a white background, which I normally do. I thought I had done,
Sorry to
uh,
put you in the spot right there.
but there it is. It's up on the screen. I mean, it's a killer shot. You know, you're right in the midst of it there, and that guy is staring down the barrel of your lens. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, if you haven't done anything with this, you should. It's
Yes, I arrived early during that particular protest, and I thought that I missed it. So I was with the other crowds. They were just standing in the city hall, and then all of a sudden, like everybody just started shouting. And then at the other side of the street, it's that whole second wave of people, and I was at the other end. So I just stood there, and I have my camera, and everybody was just approaching me. Oh my God! I mean, just being in the middle, like people chanting, shouting, just getting angry. It's just goosebumps. It's
mm.
just something. It's the feeling just being there. It's something that it's so powerful. You know, it's great. It's great
Yeah,
being
yeah,
there.
well, I mean, you've documented it. You sent a few. I'll put it up one more time. I mean, it's a beautiful shot. It very much sort of summarizes everything right
Yeah.
now. I think actually. So you know, good for you for getting over the goosebumps and getting over the shaky camera, because
Yeah.
it's not easy being
I,
in
yeah,
America.
I just shot a few frames. I stopped and I just started walking with them and chanting. You know, it's great.
Yeah, well done. It's very cool. So look,
Thank you.
you know, we're drawing to a close. There's a couple of small questions though I'd love to ask you.
No.
I only very small, you know, but I asked you about a tip for a photographer. Now
Yeah.
look, we've talked about architecture. Architecture. You shoot b-boys. You shoot street. You shoot protest. Well, you said to me, do not overwhelm yourself with gear. That's
Yes.
kind of a classic thing for a photographer to do. Um,
Yes.
what's yours? In very, you know, in a minute, like if you say don't overwhelm yourself, what is it that you use? Are you a super light guy?
Yes. No, I stick with if my go-to would be my Canon 5D SLR and a fixed 50. That's it.
Okay,
Like if
nice.
I go out, my fixed 51.2 with my Canon. That's it. And I've done shoots with just that, basically just a 50 mil, just walking around. I could shoot somewhat landscape. I can shoot portrait. I can go close up and wide. So yeah, I mean, and then yeah, I think just don't overwhelm yourself with gear, especially when you're starting. I think a lot of aspiring photographers get caught up with the whole gear thing, and because you can take great photos with iPhone now. You
Of
don't really
course.
need that gear.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen, and then I think it's mostly like a process. You start with your camera, and then try to master your manual controls, and then get a lens, and then try to shoot with that, and then over time you realize that maybe I need a flash. Just get one light, and then you realize that maybe I need to get another light because this one is not enough, and then you get another one. But it should be that progression, so that it makes the whole thing easier,
Yeah.
instead of just getting all a bunch of stuff all the same time, and then at the end of the day you just, man, this is so much for me. Everything is like a different
Build and
size.
learn. Yeah.
Exactly, just build with it. That's right.
All right. So look, passing question that I want to chuck past you. Thank you for that insight. Passing
Thanks.
question. I've asked it of all my people so far, of all my interviews. COVID. Do you think there's one thing that you can see that would change forever as a result of COVID? And keep it super short.
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I can just, for me, it's just keeping myself sane and try to be creative. It's whether painting my own backdrop, painting my family. I mean, taking photos of my family. It's I don't know. I think it, I feel like it is changing, but it's really up to us to keep ourselves inspired, right?
Yeah.
Just keep shooting like what you're doing.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out a way to have that creative outlet, because none of us really don't know what's going to
I
happen.
think that's it. Actually, it's going to be keep creative, or keep conscious of the fact that you need to keep creative. And in this time, there's plenty of stories that have come out about COVID creativity.
Yeah.
In time pressured environments, or pressure, you find creative ways or creative ideas that you never really thought you had. So
Yeah, don't hit that pause button and being creative. Figure out it's either painting or shooting photos. It doesn't have to be specifically taking photos. Just be creative. Read a book. Just watch documentaries, great movies, watch film. Just keep yourself inspired and be on that creative edge all the
nice,
time. Yeah.
nice. That's a fantastic way to finish. Carlo, thanks very much for joining me
Thank-
today in conversation.
Woo,
Thanks
this
for
is so
getting up
fun.
super early. Uh, it was great, really nice talking to you and getting some insights into your pictures and to how you shoot. And it's been a real joy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, thank you. You guys be safe. You be safe. Say hi to the family from me.
I will. Likewise to you. And hopefully I'll see you in LA at some time in the
Definitely.
future.
Let's do this. All right. Thanks.
Cool. Well, thank you. That was a pretty amazing interview with a conversation with Carlo there. Do join me next week, where I intend to be speaking with a fabulous lifestyle photographer by the name of Patrick Harrison. He is ready to converse and is getting creative as we speak. So for now, thanks very much for joining. Have a good intervening time, and until next week.
Nice.